kind of grew up in the culture of arranged marriages. I saw it in my family and my friends, and kind of the idea came about when you see kind of all these people meeting random strangers with such a kind of like such an important view to get to see whether they can marry that person, and the awkwardness with the families coming together. And then after that, how everybody kind of gets involved with trying to find matches, and then the wedding and what the dramas that go alongside all of that. But what I really liked about this story, and what I really wanted to capture, is the idea of something quite a traditional cultural kind of method of finding someone a husband or a wife, coming over to the UK in a second or third generation kind of community where we're brought up with completely different values, and watch different things on TV where arranged marriages don't necessarily fit in, and that kind of juxtaposition between British culture, being born British and being brought up here and having lots of British values, and then kind of being thrust into this very old traditional Pakistani South Asian tradition, which doesn't always work for people, which we find out in the book. And so all of that kind of the differences, but the similarities as well, all of that kind of made me think there's a real story here to be told. I just want to try and capture it if I can. Well, again, I wanted to write something. They always say write about what you know, don't they? And I'd written my first book, The Doctor Will See You Now, which was about general practice and the kind of stories that I saw there and the encounters I had. And I felt like I'd done that. And so for the second book, I wanted to write about something else that's important to me. And as I've got older, when I was younger, I was always fighting my culture, trying to hide away from it and not kind of accepting it and pretending to be more British than Pakistani. And then as I've got older, and I think this happens to lots of people, I really embraced my Pakistani culture. And my dad was Indian, my mum was Pakistani, and kind of having all of that. And I was thinking, why have I resisted this? It's such an amazing, beautiful culture. And I love the idea of kind of India and Pakistani culture coming together. I love the idea of those cultures then coming together with British cultures. And so I knew that I was embedded in it. And I thought, well, what within this can I write that would be eye-opening, slightly challenging to people as well. And it was this. I thought, right, this is it. Because my friend was trying to find someone, a wife for himself, through the arranged marriage process, and he was going through like ups and downs of it, meeting loads of different young girls, and it was just, some of his stories were hilarious, some of them were quite sad, and I just thought there's so much here. I've got to write it, and I had to make it non-fiction because I can't write about myself in this situation. I had to make it fiction, so it is a work of fiction based loosely on real events, I would say. So the book follows three young British Asians, two boys and a girl. So Yusuf, who has just finished medical school, and all through university, he was told by his mum, focus on your studies, don't talk to girls, they'll only distract you. And on the first week, he met the love of his life, a girl called Jessica, who's the captain of the football team, have come from Somerset and has never met an Asian person in her life, and the two of them just wonderfully connect. And he kind of keeps his life at university separate to his life at home because he lives away and he just goes back in the holidays, like lots of people do. And so when he was kind of hoping either the relationship would fizzle out over time, or that when the time came, he would have the courage to tell his family about Jessica, and neither of those happened. And so he's at a crossroads and he has to make a decision as to whether he wants to continue with that relationship and tell his parents, or break up with Jessica. And very early on in the book, he breaks up with Jessica and decides that his family are more important, but he can't shake it. And they're working in the same hospital together as well as junior doctors. All the while, his mum is going through various matchmakers to set him up with different girls, and that's really difficult for him. And he's trying to balance that with his feelings for Jess. And then we've got Rihanna, who is Yusuf's younger sister, who is a bit of a letdown to her parents, really, because they wanted her to be a pharmacist, but she chose to be a writer and she chose English to study at university. And she, again, probably a bit like me, was fighting her culture and then has kind of learned to embrace it over time. And she's very skeptical about the arranged marriage process. And she's got to deal with a mum that if she finds someone first herself, that's fine. But if a mum finds someone for her as well, that's also fine. So she's kind of in a race against time with her mum, and it's quite funny. And then we've got Rohit, who is Yusuf's best friend, who's very, very unlucky in love and has had lots of unfortunate relationships with girls. And his mum has found him someone over in India. And so he's debating whether that's right for him. But I think the star of this show are the parents and the aunties and uncles, particularly Feroza, who is Yusuf and Rihanna's mum, who will stop at nothing to make sure her children get the best matches out there. She won't have anyone else's cast-offs. She won't have, she's got a certain criteria that she feels needs to be met if they want to marry her children. If she finds out about Jess, then I won't tell you whether she does or not, all hell will break loose. I found my own match, but that was after my mum did try and set me up with lots of different people. Well, not lots of different people, a few different people. And you know what? It's just such an awkward experience when your mum says, right, we're going to this person's house and we're going to go and see this girl. And the idea of going to a complete stranger's house where it's just you and your parents and your family, going to their house with their parents and their family, trying to have that really, you're trying to be cool and be full of banter, but also be really respectful. And it's just such a strange, bizarre scenario that we kind of find ourselves in. So I have had that experience, and I wanted to write about that. I was really against the whole arranged marriage thing, I think, but I would say keep it as an option. Try and find your own person. If you find someone, great, but it is hard to find a match these days on your own because people don't see each other in the same way. We don't go out in the same way that we used to, certainly when I was younger. So a lot of it is done online, and you're relying on algorithms to try and find you someone. And anyone who's online will know you have to sift through a lot of losers to find that one winner. And so don't rule out the idea of your parents introducing you to someone. You don't have this, just an introduction. That's all I would say. As long as it is just an introduction and there's no kind of force behind it, I think it's okay. Keep it as an option. There's no harm in having options. Mind you, having too many options can be confusing when it comes to this. But if you're not having any luck anywhere else, you know what? Why not ask the people who know you best or allegedly know you best to try and hook you up with someone. Oh, right. Okay. So if you're looking for love, it's hard to find. Don't give up. I think there's a lot of pressure on when you hit a certain age to try and find someone. And sometimes you end up making decisions based on pressure rather than what you want. I think you'll never find, I'm going to sound like an old Asian auntie now, but I'm going to say this. So you'll never find someone who has everything you're looking for, everything you've dreamed of. You do need a connection with them, that spark to begin with. There does need to be an attraction, I would say. But compromise, if you can work with someone and get to know their really positive attributes, and as long as their positive attributes outshine and overshadow some of the stuff that don't necessarily work with you, that's okay. They'll do the same with you. So compromise, I think, not too much compromise, but a little bit of compromise is good because you still want to, you're still worth it, and you're still, your self-worth is really important, and making sure you find someone who recognizes that is key. And also, don't be pushed into anything you don't want to do. So meet as many people as you need to meet. But when you do kind of find someone you think, okay, this might work, focus on that person for a while before you try and widen your net, because it is really confusing to the. It's a bit like, when you're booking a holiday and you're going through lists and lists and lists of different destinations, and it's so hard to choose because you've got too much choice. Focus on one person for a while, and if that doesn't work, then go on to another person. But don't lead people on. Don't focus on too many people at any one time, because you won't want that done to you or your family. So that's what I would say. But it's hard to find the right person. It's hard, the pressure that's there. But make sure you choose someone who's going to recognize your self-worth. Tell you that I have got the same experience. Right up until a few years ago, every time I answered the phone at my mum's house, I gave up answering the landline there. But every time I did, the first thing the aunties would ask was, when am I coming to your wedding? And all of this kind of stuff. And it's really, I don't think they understand how much that kind of hits when they ask you those questions. And then you end up not, when they come to the house, you don't want to go and say salam to them because they're going to ask you the same question. You don't want to go to people's weddings because you're going to get asked the same questions there as well. There's so much pressure. And I think what I started doing, which worked, was telling them that them asking me that question made it really difficult for me to have a relationship with them. So I just say, if my auntie used to ring, obviously they're not real aunties, they're just my mum's mates, and so they are aunties, obviously, but they're not like blood aunties. And so I'd say, auntie, look, whenever you ask me this question, it really upsets me, and it makes me want to not talk to you or answer this phone again. And that's really blunt. It's really blunt, and it's really hard to say, but you've got to say it. And then that one auntie will not ask you that question again. Or if you're at a wedding and an auntie comes up to you and says the same thing, just say, look, auntie, I'm here to enjoy myself. I'm here to celebrate the wedding of whoever. And you asking me this question really does not make me feel good about myself. And if you want me to find the right person, I've got to feel good about myself. You're not helping. Or go, auntie, why don't you get off your bottom and find me someone? I like the wild, wild west, aren't they, really? You people, I was really surprised. I'm really surprised because I feel like I'm a fairly wholesome person. There's some non-wholesome persons on those apps, and that really took me by surprise. But what I would say, I mean, obviously none of that is very reassuring to any aunties, but what I would say is you've got to, if you trust your child, your son or daughter, to do the right thing and make the right decisions, and they're on those apps, you've got to trust them on those apps. Those apps are just like, going out into the wild, the wide world. You can't control everything and everyone out there, but you can instill enough self-respect and self-worth in your child, hopefully, because that isn't something we're good at as Asian parents. Well, certainly not our generation are better, but the old generation aren't great at self-worth. But if you have done that properly, then they will make the right decisions. And you've got to sift through a lot of rubbish on those apps, a lot of rubbish, before you find someone who's even worth going to meet, let alone anything else. So and also those apps can be really confidence destroying. I think the way that people can ghost you, the messages that people can think it's fine to send you, all the stuff you wouldn't do in real life, you do in the way you talk to people in those apps. Don't go on just look. Oh God, now I'm becoming an uncle. I think that age is fine. That's what I'm talking about. I'm here there. Don't go on just looks. Go on, how respectful they are to you, and that's the most important thing. How they talk to you and how they word their messages to you is that that's really, really important. And if they're playing games and if they haven't got a good reason, but they haven't replied for days, and then they show up, a week or two later, they're not prioritizing you. They're playing the field. They're messaging other people as well. Ditch them. Only go for people who really value you. I love Bradford. I love it. I grew up there. I work there. I went away to study, but the best thing about Bradford are the people by far, whether they're Pakistani people or not. That's what makes the city, because everybody says hello to everyone as you're walking around, whether you know them or not. There's amazing food places to eat. Everybody kind of knows everyone in a way, or at least knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. So it's a bit like that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Everyone in Bradford kind of knows each other. And if they don't, it doesn't take long to get to know them. And we're in a beautiful part of the country. We're in Yorkshire, and the surrounding areas, the Dales and those kind of places, is absolutely gorgeous. So if you want a bit of beautiful northern countryside, it's perfect for that. But yeah, I would say the people, the food, and the countryside is what makes Bradford, and it's definitely a city worth visiting. That's tough. It's really important to me that I balance both. I love my Pakistani culture, both, like everything about it, the language, the food, the clothing, all of the stuff I've tried to kind of pretend I'm not part of before. I'm totally embedded in now. So I'm a GP, and the thing I like most about it is that connection you have with patients. So I've worked at the same practice in Bradford for 12 years, and I feel like I know my patients really well, and I know the families, and I know the community, and I know what works in the community and what doesn't. And so even though it's a really highly pressurized job, and there's patients coming in every 10 minutes, and there's loads of extras being added to your workload, what I always tell my students and my trainees is that when it's just you and the patient, and they've come in and they've told you their problem, and they really feel heard, and you've really helped them kind of on the road to recovery. Often it's not, you can't fix something then and there, but that kind of start of a recovery, the diagnosis and kind of the management plan. I think that connection, when they leave feeling like they've been listened to and heard, and you've made a difference, I think that is by far and away, the best thing about the job. Sometimes you don't get that in every single consultation, definitely not. But if you get it in 2 or 3 a day, I think the job is still worth doing. The problem is just the pressure on the NHS, the pressure on the services. You're always chasing your tail and firefighting, and that takes away from some of the quality of the consultation. But as long as you've still got the patient at the heart of it, I think that's why I'm still in it, and why I feel like I'm not going to leave. So you've got to get the grades. You've got to work hard at school. I think that's the kind of the foundation of it all. But also, if you're thinking about applying to medicine, we need to know. So I interview for Leeds Medical School, and what I look for, because people always think, oh, I need some work experience in the hospital. I need some work experience in a GP surgery. No, you don't. Anyone's parents can help set that up if you've got the right know-how. And we're not interested in your parents setting up some work experience for you. What we want to know is how and if you can care for people. So get a caring job. So whether that's in a nursing home or a residential home or a voluntary kind of disabled unit kind of thing, do something that actually is very hands-on, not just you sitting in the corner of a GP surgery watching someone else do the work, and then reflect on that. How is that going to make you a good doctor? Why is that compassion and empathy for people combined with the science that medicine brings really important? And that is what makes a good doctor. You do need the knowledge, and you need the know-how, but without the empathy and the communication skills, you're not going to be a good doctor, and patients are not going to like you if you're this cold robotic machine. You've got to have the empathy, but I need to see evidence of that, and your interviewers will need to see evidence of that. So it's no good just saying, oh yeah, I am empathetic. You've got to show that you mean business, and that means, like I did, working summers in a care home. When I took on GP training, I had a really good trainer or boss who saw me through those 3 years of of GP training, a chap called Tom Partridge over in Liverpool. And I'm still very good friends with him, and we still go out for dinner and things. But because I wasn't sure I wanted to be a GP, the idea wasn't that appealing to me. It's like the least sexiest of all the medical professions, isn't it? It still is. My mum's always still a bit disappointed, but he made me see that general practice and the breadth of knowledge and the skill that's required to see a patient who comes in with a different problem every 10 minutes. You could literally, it could be anything, and they could be a baby right up to an older person. And so he made me see how skillful and how important that job was, and how vital it is to the community and to health. The idea of primary care, this is what he made me see, is a lot of it is about long-term health conditions and preventative medicine. So the kudos often goes to like the heart surgeons and the orthopedic surgeons because they're fixing bones and they're fixing hearts. But actually, if you can stop hearts and bones being broken in the first place, which is what we're supposed to be doing if we have the time and the space to do it, that's far more important. Getting communities healthier, getting cancer screening done, getting vaccinations done, all of that preventative stuff, making sure people's cholesterol is sorted, that their blood sugars are well controlled, so they don't have heart attacks and strokes. That's really, really key. And he made me see all of that. And it stopped me thinking of general practice as kind of lesser than other medical stuff, because we may not see these people not have strokes and not have heart attacks, because that people don't come to you and go, I haven't had a heart attack. But all that work you put in to stop that from happening to each individual, and that's how we do it. We look at individuals' blood sugars, cholesterol, blood pressure. Right, what can we do to bring your blood pressure down, your cholesterol down? How do we manage your blood sugars? That person by person approach, never gets the praise it deserves. But if you do it right, you really do save lives. You don't have to pretend to be someone else to be liked by others. I felt a lot of my time, and a lot of people feel this way, don't they? Imposter syndrome. But I felt that right from a young age. I got a scholarship to go to a really good school. It was based on some entrance exams because we didn't have the money to go to the posh schools. And I think being in that environment of very rich, very educated people, when you're from a different, kind of working class background, made me, for a while, pretend to be something I wasn't, just to be liked. And I look back on that time now and just think, God, what was I thinking? I mean, I was a kid, but what was I thinking? Some of the stuff I did, some of the stuff I said. It's okay not to be liked by certain people. You can't be liked by everyone. And the most important person who you should concentrate on liking you is you, and no one else. And everything else will fall into place. And I wish I could have that conversation with my younger self.